Hello, and welcome to Richard, the honest and upgoing and doesn't hide secrets from his best friend, and
Oh,
Karl, no comment, present Deep Space and Dragons. I'm Richard.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm Carl.
Suspicious.
Implied secrecy.
Amazing, so shady, so mysterious. And welcome to Deep Space and Dragons. Sometimes we talk nerd things. A lot of times we manifest products into existence. Sometimes Karl successfully makes a sandblaster. Sometimes. With multiverse
Sometimes.
theory,
Oh, the multiverse theory, I've done it an infinite number of times, so I really don't need to do it again.
indeed, you're also a snowflake once. But moving on from that, what is new in the Karlverse?
Um, well, time for a little mini review. We were scrolling
Of
through
Karl?
Netflix the other day. Hmm?
Just a mini review of Karl in general? Because, at his
No,
peaks, 10 out of 10, but sometimes, oof, like season 3, there's a bit of a quality drop in Karl.
no, it's now it's officially October, so we definitely have to watch horror movies.
There is no
And some of
evidence they're listening to this in October. This could be aliens and Alpha Centauri picking this up long after the last human has turned to dust.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to bother mansplaining Halloween to aliens.
No, definitely mansplained Halloween to aliens. Because, imagine, imagine the ancient historian who sees the Nintendo 64 controllers and think we're some kind of horrifying three-armed nightmare creature, and just do not understand why we stab pumpkins in the face. And no one recorded why, because everyone just assumed everyone knew what it was.
Anyways, and my girlfriend and I, well, my fiancée and I,
What? No
we're
way! This
engaged.
is shocking information, not spoiled by meta at all. This is the first time I'm hearing of this in a fantastic livestream bit.
Anyways, we have a tradition of watching horror movies as we get into Halloween, and every now and then I see the image for a horror movie, and it's a classic, and it's like, I've never seen that.
You didn't even
It's not on
pause
our
for me to say
list.
congratulations. Fine then. No congrats for you. Back to the horror movies.
The horror movies are what's really important here, obviously.
Good thing your fiance doesn't listen to our show.
Well, I'm multitasking here. I mean, not at this exact moment, but throughout the episode.
No, I like to
it'll
assume
be
you're
good.
doing the proposal in a hot air balloon right now while recording.
Oh, that would have been more romantic than what
It's
actually
so
happened. But we'll get to that
expensive.
after the horror movie, because obviously the horror movie and the proposal are on the same level of importance in my daily life.
You know, that's me with a lot of interesting things. Like, I was late for work today because I was painting my virtual Gunpla.
Okay. Okay, but so we're scrolling through Netflix, and Jaws pops up. I'm like, I've never actually seen it, and the only genre it's categorized as is horror.
Oh, we need to pause for one moment because I have to do something. Using my divine Gias powers, I've just made Baby Shark play on a loop in every listener's head of this episode. You may continue.
So, anyways, we ended up watching Jaws, the original Jaws from 1975, I believe. Apparently, it's based on a book from 1974, which I put a hold on at the library, the ebook library, the Saskatchewan Library Consortium.
For the record, we're not sponsored by libraries. I fully support libraries. If you don't feel like buying my book, which would directly support this, or sending Karl unmarked bags of catch, which would directly support this, go support your
Hmm.
local library, and vicariously I will thrive.
Uh, but so I'm firstly I was surprised. Some of these older movies are actually longer than I expected. Because like when I was growing up, and maybe this was mostly for like kids movies, but it's like 90 minutes was the runtime for almost all movies that I remember
Well, when we
watching in
talk
like
about
the.
Marvel, we always sass them for that.
Well, yeah, but so the Shining was close to 2 hours, which was a little bit surprising, and
And a
uh,
full hour of that was ominous hallways.
yeah, and Jaws was a full 2 hours. It was like 2 hours and 8 minutes or something like that. Uh, uh, so it was surprising how long it was, because it's like I didn't realize people had the same kind of attention span. Like there was like a dip in movie length going into like the late 80s, early 90s,
There's
I
some kind of
guess.
joke about there going in a dip to see Jaws. Like, it exists. I'm just not quite sure the configuration.
Anyways, um, all in all, um, maybe I don't go out in the ocean enough. I don't know.
You're in
I mean,
Saskatchewan.
I'm kind of landlocked, so maybe that's my
If you're
problem.
going out into
But I
the
really
ocean more often, the BC real estate market has been fixed by the ocean swallowing it.
right.
Uh, but seriously, if we lost all the lakefront property in Canada, I'm not really quite sure how many billionaires we would lose. It would be a deep tragedy to us all. But please continue.
Well, anyway, TLDR. The movie is long, and there's not a lot of action.
Counterpoint,
Uh,
TLDR would have been a great name for our podcast.
yeah.
Like, that's pretty much what we do is sometimes we'll even come in to review something that neither of us have read and be like, well, TLDR. It ended mediocrely.
Well, the ending of Jaws was the most exciting part, obviously, because they're in the sheriff and the marine biologist and the random fisherman hunter that's hunting Jaws for $10,000.
Captain Ahab, yes, I'm
$2,000
familiar.
wasn't enough, but 10,000.
Yeah, Captain Ahab, I'm familiar.
Anyways, they're all in the boat, and then apparently the production is famous for having an animatronic shark
Yes.
that actually
I
like
was
caused
gonna say it
injuries
if
and
you
like.
didn't.
So I mean, I will say, um, it's so hard for CGI to beat practical effects.
I was
It's
about
just
to ask you, so what was better, that shark or James Cameron inventing underwater cameras for underwater green screening?
oh, see, um, I think that shark was still better. I mean, the
I
overall
believe it.
concept and the visuals were a little bit like, because it's from the 70s, so uh, they have lots of weird lighting where people are like they're clearly in the dark in the night, and then there's just like a spotlight shining on them so that the camera can actually capture them, because the cameras were just old. So shadows and stuff are kind of weird when it's nighttime in the movies.
I mean, better than
Um,
Sharknado CGIing the blue sky gray, but it's still having the lighting effect of a sunny day.
yeah. But in any event, I think it's worth watching as is a iconic and classic film. Uh, but it was just kind of long and boring.
To be fair, though,
There,
Avatar The Way of Water had a very similar problem.
I definitely agree. It was a little bit long and boring.
And also, for Avatar The Way of Water, because I'm not quite sure why I decide this is my focal point for contrasting Jaws. It came out way too late after the original for the original to have. It didn't. The original wasn't good because of its plot, and that sequel was so far away. I'm like, what even happened in this movie other than Fern Gully? Kind of like the premise of Jaws only worked once, and the Jaws sequel Sharknado really is like the only direction you can go after that is you go from horror to slapstick comedy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There is a Jaws 2, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but there
Let's see,
shouldn't be.
Jaws 2.
That's my point. Is there shouldn't be a Jaws 2, more Jaws.
Yeah, Jaws 2 in 1978.
But moving along from that one. So yes, we're talking Jaws movie. So that was the Carl Flash Fiction review. Or is there an entire
Yeah, I
episode
mean,
on Jaws somehow? Because I did not do the homework.
no, I don't. I don't feel like there's enough there. I mean, maybe if we were like super analytical about the characters and whatnot, but
I
like
mean, we
say,
could do that
you'd have to
YouTube
do
thing
some
where we do
homework.
like a reaction video where we have our talking heads on web cameras and the footage playing, but we have to block out the music that's copyrighted and have like a video game playing in the bottom window to trick the copyright detector. It's a whole thing.
That would be a fun amount of work.
Because that's what I have right now, surplus time.
Ah, but so then the other thing that's new with me is, well, so last week, my then girlfriend and I were in Edmonton,
I made so
and we were
much
at a,
fun of you for not being romantic enough, and then this happened. I'm so happy for this plot twist. Because I spent
oh,
like a decent chunk of our last episode being like, oh, you better make sure that you leave your girlfriend in the hotel room to go ride water slides by yourself.
no, I had water slide buddies. One of
That
them
that was the
almost
thing I
chicken.
made fun of you for specifically was you had water slide buddies who were not in fact your fiance.
One of them almost chickened out, didn't want to take the skyscraper drop of doom.
I mean, to be fair, that is terrifying, and that could have been me. Like, I can relate to if it wasn't my sheer like need to defeat you, I'd probably chicken out. Like, if I didn't have a rival, don't know if I could do it.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of fun, but you get going so fast. Like I think the poster said you could get up to like 64 kilometers an hour.
Got to go fast.
Um, yeah, but you go so fast. At least me personally, anyway. I was kind of skipping across the water when I hit the bottom, and I bruised my one butt cheek just
That's
slapping into the
great.
water that hard.
That's amazing. It makes me happy.
But
You've officially
we went
gotten
to
too
the.
old for water slides.
Oh no, I'll still take it again. I'm too old when it bruises both my butt
Plus,
cheeks.
you have a spare. Like, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
That line's so much less badass when it's not about eyes.
Okay, so we're in Edmonton. Well, technically just outside of Edmonton. There's like this outlet mall, um, which I still don't. Maybe I should look it up, but outlet malls just seem to be regular malls. But
Yeah, like,
I
it's
don't know.
like we're painting a scenery with Outlet Mall. It's like when I was giving a copy edit note forever ago where one of my writer friends used tire, Tyre, for a wagon wheel, and I'm like, it's not the wrong word. You use the historically correct word, but it gives a certain image. So when you say tire, you think rubber, and then you say tire on a wagon, the wagon looks stupid in the mind's eye. When you say outlet mall, you like move away from like Mall of America and go, oh yeah, the mall I can identify easily in my brain and probably has a Sears.
No, oddly enough, it did not have a Sears. It had a Winners though.
Close enough. I'll take the win
I think.
because I'm a winner here.
But so she was shopping at Claire's, and I told her I had to go to the washroom, which was true. But I actually also snuck away to the jewelry store and bought a ring.
Oh wow, this was like
And,
a now's the chance I'm gonna go for it. Okay. Because you
yeah,
see,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was good. One
Well,
thing I wanted to make fun of you for is
mhm,
years ago, well, probably a
mhm.
decade now, when I'm like, "Hey, Carl, can you lend me money so I can buy a cute gift for my girlfriend for our anniversary?" I'm like, I was really hoping when your engagement came around, you'd be like, "Hey, Vlad, I know you have no money, but you owe me this money, so."
um, but so I purchased the ring. I purchased it in a size 6. Uh, I had measured one of her other rings with the calipers, and
All right, you're
that
getting
one
back
came up.
points here. There's a little more prep work than this sounds like initially. Okay.
But, well, I've been, and I proposed to her on her birthday. That was the whole shtick. People kept being like, "Oh, when you guys gonna get married?" Oh, and she was all like, "Oh, I don't know if we're ever gonna get married." And I'm sitting here, I'm like, "Man, I've been thinking about proposing to you on your birthday for like 6 months."
I thought you were about to say a year because that's extremely funny. Because you're like, oh, yeah, next year. I missed it this year. Shit.
No,
Stupid leap
no.
year.
Um,
Ruining your calendar.
but so I sneakily get the ring. I go back to Claire's, and Megan's still shopping. Her mom is in there, and like I sneakily hand the ring off to her mom to put in her purse so that Megan won't see it.
Ooh, okay, now this is getting spicy. Okay, okay. You know I love
Yeah, so
love.
right. And so I managed to successfully get the ring into the car and into the center console, which I know that Megan won't check.
Okay, okay, we got some mind games going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I was gambling, but it's paid off. She
Well,
didn't
yeah,
check it.
the
She didn't
gamble's
know.
what makes it exciting, because, like, I hate to break this to you. If you just had a ring box in your pocket, she's not checking your pockets.
Yeah, except for the ring box is like square and pointy and would show pretty easily. Anyways,
Suit,
what
vest
does it matter?
pocket.
What does it
Anywho,
matter?
it doesn't matter. Like, you're right. You've thought of this. I mostly, like, I enjoy testing your thought process here, because I'm getting distinct joy from this experience.
So then we go walk past the jewelry store, and a different jewelry store actually. But she decides that she should try on wearing rings.
Ha!
Uh, and the lady she was going to try on rings basically told her that her ring was she should get a size 7 ring.
Ha!
And I'm like, oh well, I thought I had this right with the size 6, but whatever.
Well, it's not like they're supposed to remove that ring constantly anyway. I'm sure it's fine. Just break the bone.
Yeah. Well, but so then we get back from Edmonton, and the next day we go to Moose Jaw with my parents.
Primo
Uh,
location. Okay, so like Edmonton, I was already minusing some points off you from because like it's the city of oil, like it's where the poison type gym would be. Like now, Moose Jaw's nice. I can see like an ice type or a fairy type gym there, or actually fire. Weirdly enough, in like the hot springs. There's a few ways. Even dragon.
yeah.
Yes, I
Uh,
judge how romantic locations are by which type of Pokemon gym would be there. Please come at me for that.
are you sure it wouldn't be like a Stantler gym? Be the normal type
You
gym?
know, my brain was kind of pivoting that direction, and it'd be sad if it was the ghost type gym.
Well, apparently there is a ghost tour trolley you can take.
You know, I think there's
Bunch of
enough,
haunted stuff.
but yeah, like Moose Jaw's like Banff level's good.
Um, and then Moose Jaw was fine. It was. Well, I didn't actually propose in Moose Jaw because
Okay, now it's getting twisty again. You mean you didn't take her to the tragic exploitation tunnel and propose there? Or at the El Capone restaurant?
no, we went to the Bunker 24 tour because it's new and my parents hadn't done it yet. And then we spent the night. We booked separate rooms. We spent the night at the Temple Garden Spa Hotel because
It sounds
the hotel
awesome.
room includes access to the mineral pool, and
Yeah.
that's just generally awesome.
Yeah, I've actually stayed there before. Fun fact.
Yeah, and they have free parking for hotel guests and everything else within walking distance, and it's just generally a good time.
Yeah. There was a random pub I went to near there that had a menu that was like had 13 kinds of paralyzer for some reason. That was their thing.
But
I don't know why.
So then we spent the night there. We woke up. It was the day of her birthday. We ended up my parents gave her a birthday card, paid for breakfast because we went out for breakfast. And then basically we went in the hot spring for a little while and went back home. And then we drove my parents' car out to Moose Jaw. So we got back. We had to pick up our car from their house, and on the way home from their house, it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna go to the mall for a second here. And we went to the mall. Went to the jewelry store, Pandora, not sponsored, but that's the store. They have a pretty good exchange policy, I think. Because I just like went in there, I showed them the ring, gave them the receipt, and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, we'll exchange this for a size 7 for you."
Well, I mean, I assume like they're not gonna. fight you too much on this. Although it would be funny if you come back there like, oof, rough story, buddy. We got our Kleenex over on aisle 6.
No, they had to do a little bit of finagling because there's no provincial tax in Alberta, but there is in Saskatchewan.
Ha! Alberta.
Um,
It's basically
but
space Texas.
but she was with me this time, so she sees me like exchanging this ring. She tries it on. She puts it on her ring finger, and she's like, "Oh, are you want it on this finger?" And I'm like, "Oh, I guess we'll see." And then this is I'm gonna lose points here for sure.
Yeah, you've already lost a few.
But
The part where you're like, okay, I gotta get the ring resized, despite my sneakiness. I'll just bring her into the jewelry shop and play so Goku level dumb. What kind of food is marriage?
but so then when we got out to the car, we started driving home from the mall. I was like, yeah, I'm proposing to you. I'm kind of like nervous and scared, but that's what I'm doing. And then she started crying a little bit, and she said yes. So,
didn't say if you propose to me, I'll drive this into a telephone pole. So that's a win. I mean, I assume you were driving in this scenario, but still.
That's what's new with me. What's new with you there, Richard?
Well, I can't top proposal espionage because, you see, what's really funny is you listen to the voice tones we have, right? And you think I'd be the one doing exciting stuff and you'd be the chill one. But it's actually weirdly inversed. Like, I don't sound chill, but in factuality, I am remarkably chill. So, I went to a book festival this weekend where it was a bunch of street stalls with different publishing houses were all set up, and a friend of mine had their magazine they're selling issues. I met up with another friend of mine. So I went on a book tour on Saturday.
And
yeah, that's pretty much it. Work has kept me between work and writing my third novel with a mentor. I have been extremely busy with being functional.
Ooh.
Plus, I was writing my essay for law school.
So your mentor is helping you write your third.
So I don't know if I can.
Story?
I don't know if I can go into full detail on this. So I'm going to be vague and cryptic as unnecessary. But effectively, how it works is I'm working on my sci-fi novel, and if people have been paying attention, they kind of have the gist of what I'm going for. And it's like he's taking somewhere between a line editor role of like each week going over a new chapter, but also because it's a mentorship, teaching me like what life is like for a writer, things about writing for different IPs and stuff, and just overall being a chill dude. So my Friday meetings are like going over my book, but also going over his products and things. And because it's a mentorship, each hour he puts in, he's been stockpiling Richard hours he can put me to work doing. And I'm like, it'll be some kind of exciting project. And I don't know what it'll be yet. But yeah, so I'm going to be cryptic and bizarre about it, but it's fun. Because it's like, oh yeah, I don't have to force this person to read my book and give me feedback. Because the thing is, I have a great support system of loving people who will absolutely read a chapter of my work because they love and care about me. Shame I'll have written the book by the time they get back to me.
Sometimes I'm in that category.
Like, I'll be at the book launch signing the books, and you'll be like, so, chapter 2, you had a typo. I'll be like, that would have been great knowledge 6 months ago. Oh, nope, typo's still there, didn't catch it. Great. I've only moved 200 of these. Actually, at the time of this recording, because I was going to a different writing festival this weekend, I was at one last weekend, The Minuet of Sorcery was a free ebook, and I think it goes till, like, Friday at midnight. It's free, so people are going to hear this and know that they could have had a free ebook but didn't when this airs. Yeah, just The Minuet of Sorcery. The ebook for it's just straight up free for the next week because I get a certain number of free distributions I get to do, and I then use those to climb on the top of the chart. Plus, it's a fun icebreaker. So, like, so-and-so will be like, oh, this is my magazine. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm an author. My book's free for the next week. If you want to check it out, I hand over the business card. They hand over their business card. And the haggling's done.
The haggling is done.
It's better than my other strategy of taking some of my misprinted test copies and just hiding them on random library shelves.
Hmm. That's funny.
Well, it's so there's a thing in my on my campus which is like a take a book, leave a book shelf. I just occasionally will
Okay,
put one
okay.
there just to see if it disappears or not.
Well, don't leave us in suspense.
Oh, they'd always disappear, and I'll never know who took this book. And
Huh.
I'm like, is it one of my enemies who just sees it as so mad they want to destroy it? Is it one of my friends being like, oh yeah, free book? Or is it just some random person be like, huh, what this? And I hope it's the third one. And they just think I'm some actual author. Well, I am an actual author, but you know what I mean, right? Like, oh, I never read one by this guy before. Cool. Yes,
Well,
mystery
have you
books are
put
great.
any have you put any sequels in there to see if they disappear?
No, see, the idea is I give away the free first book, so then people have to buy the sequel, or I give away the sequel, so they
Uh,
have to buy the first book, right? Like this is the business 101 because that's what authors do. We make fat stacks of cash. Yep, that's what authors are famous
fat
for.
stacks.
But yeah, I typically only put one on sale at a time to like encourage people to go get the other one. I wrote them with a
Right,
big
that
enough
makes
time
sense.
skip. I was trying to do the Dragon Ball Z Dragon Ball thing, where if you start at Z, you can go back and watch Dragon Ball and you don't
Hmm.
really lose anything for doing it that way.
Right.
I believe the Team 4-star line was, weren't you an enemy in Dragon Ball Piccolo? Pff, no one watched Dragon Ball.
Right.
But yeah, writing books, going to lit festivals, working my job. I did have to come. So I was sick with a cold last week.
Mm-hmm.
And Wednesday is a bunch of practical workshop meeting type things like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
get up, do some stretches, network. And I'm like, oh no, it's my second week and I can't do the networking thing. I'm legitimately sad. Like, actually,
Mm.
because working remote is efficient, but I'm a social butterfly despite being an introvert. So, like, I need humans once in a while.
Right.
So, I have this machine called an owl. It's this owl, you put it on the center of a table, and it's a 360-degree camera that focuses in on people when they're talking and is also a speaker.
Okay.
But it also has an owl face on it, and it hoots once in a while to let people know it's active.
Huh.
So joining the meeting via Magic Owl is just awesome, right? Like the audio
Yeah.
quality,
Okay.
like the technology of like I don't even want to know how much the owl cost, and the fact that it just like links me into a Zoom meeting, which is going to be worse than physically being there. But it worked remarkably well, and the novelty amuses me.
Hmm.
Because you see, I'm not used to jobs that care about you as a human being, right? So
Right.
if
Right.
I have a cold and I'm like, oh, Carl, I can't come in and do pizzas today because I have a cold, you'd be like, well, someone better cover your shift, and you ain't getting paid for this, and we low-key hate you for doing the responsible thing of not spreading a virus.
Right. Right.
Where these academic jobs are like, no, don't come in. Heal. Have tea next to you. Do not come in. Seriously, we'll send you home. You're ill. You can't work while ill. And I'm like, it's so funny to me. Because the food job should never let someone work sick if you think about that logistically for a single second.
Oh yeah, that's true. If you're sick, you should stay home. I don't really condone the capitalistic behavior of the food service industry, uh, but
Like, I honestly believe government needs to step up and give set numbers of sick days to people because businesses
mm,
aren't doing that on their own.
right.
Because, and also, I don't mind if someone uses up a sick day to just take a random personal day. A lot of food service jobs I've worked like to pretend that it's the fate of the world. It'll be like, oh no, if Redacted doesn't come in during this big rush, it's our busiest day, the store will burn down. It's like, no, what'll happen is you'll make the food slightly slower, but the oven already has 8 pizzas in it, so you're capped. It just means the other 5 people will have to work slightly harder because you can physically only produce food so fast. And if you're not
Right.
producing food so fast that you're physically capped, then you really didn't actually need that guy that desperately. And
Yeah.
anytime they're like, "Oh, we're only scheduling one person. There's no one else who could possibly work," my thought isn't, "Oh no, what a jerk for betraying the team." It's hire another person. Have
Yeah.
2 people there. Have 3. Yeah. Then I know you have to sell an extra pizza an hour to pay for that third guy, but everyone would be happier. Just putting some facts out there that 2 large pizzas for $40 should probably cover that third guy's hourly salary, just by selling a couple of them. I'm not actually sure the markup in the numbers, but it's really not that many pizzas per hour to keep a minimum wage employee on.
That's probably true.
I almost thought you were going to actually me with actual numbers because you have those, but you're like, but then I'd have to reveal my cards.
I'm all about those secrets.
Well, I really enjoyed one time I was talking to one of my supervisors working a student job, and I'm like, if my actions stop a student from dropping out, and that one student pays the entire tuition of their time here, who otherwise wouldn't, doesn't that pay my salary indefinitely? Like, just one student?
Save one student.
And that makes
the world.
Yeah, well, it makes them 20 grand.
Yeah.
So my minimum wage isn't taking 20 grand out of there. And if I save students, boom, infinite money glitch. It's true. If you had each student recruit one other student, your school would just make infinite money.
Well, so speaking of infinite money, not necessarily.
Actually, great pivot to Wizards of the Coast. Perfect pivot, no notes. So I know you're going to rant about the Commander thing, and I'm going to rant about the 5.5 edition thing. So we're about half hour into this episode. We've definitely done the weddings part of the episode. So now it's time for the Wizards part of the episode. Oof.
Well, I mean, I'm just like a little bit curious. Like, I assume you have at least heard about the Commander bands that they put in.
So you know what's wild? I don't play Magic anymore. Not really. Right? Nor do I have any friends who are actively playing Magic. I pretty much pivoted to Flesh and Blood and then pivoted to being broke. So card games are on hiatus till I get through this next semester. But like, they messed up so bad that I'm well aware of this. Think about this. I didn't look it up. I didn't research it. I just through passive, like, existing in social spaces, through my author connections and my tabletop connections, know that they messed up Commander bands. Think about that for a second. That'd be like you're working at a pizzeria and McDonald's screwed up so hard, you're talking about the McRib.
Yeah.
But please recap it. Because there's no way every listener knows about this. Or maybe they do.
So Commander, as a Magic format, was created by the community as a way to use their excess, like, bulk.
Yeah, back when it was EDH. I honestly think a person I knew in Calgary named judge named Gavin may have been like responsible for transitioning it into a real format, but I might just be misremembering my 12-year-old days. So none of that is true, don't at me, but also it might be.
So, I mean, the community came together and created a rule set for a different way to play Magic so that they could use cards that rarely see play in tournaments.
To quote a quote I've heard before, the stupid dumb shit. It was a way to get away with using a card no matter how stupid, good, or bad.
Right.
Because you're only using one.
But so then, Wizards of the Coast became aware of the Elder Dragon Highlander, as it was called at the time. And I'm not sure why they decided to transition it to calling it Commander. But
I know exactly why. 3 reasons why you wouldn't call it Elder Dragon Highlander. First, Highlander's an protected IP.
Yeah, okay.
Second, you don't only use Elder Dragons in this one. In the original one you did. You had to literally pick one of the Elder Dragons.
Right.
And third, Commander sounded like good branding. So, like, this is a marketing department at work. But I do think they probably actually heard the phrase Highlander and are like, can we do that? They didn't want a Pal World situation on their hands.
But so Wizards officially recognized the format by releasing pre-constructed Commander decks.
I think I actually got the first cycle of those.
I think we might have. I'm pretty sure I played with them anyways, with you and Panda. Um, but so then, as the game rose, or as the format rose in popularity with the community, um, Magic the Wizards began pushing the format more and more to the point where nowadays they release a commander deck set with every single standard set that they release. Um, even Modern Masters, which was printed directly into the modern format, instead of giving players a modern deck that they could buy off the shelf, they gave players a commander deck with the Modern Master cards.
Hmm.
And some of these cards, I don't remember when it was first printed, but one card in particular, the Jeweled Lotus, um, it specifically says right on the card, uh, generates 3 mana only for your commander.
Hmm.
Uh, and so the rules committee, which was not officially affiliated with Wizards of the Coast, but the rules committee, they when the first card was first printed, apparently they basically said, "Hey, like, don't print this card. It is not good for Magic." And Wizards went and printed it anyways,
Because
and
they
then
like
they
to
made
do
it
that
the.
these days. They,
Pardon?
they like to do that these days. Complexity creep has been a real problem. I remember when a 1-2 for 1 was completely viable, and it was in fact good.
But so they really pushed this one, the Jeweled Lotus in particular, and the Mana Crypt. Um, they made it the face card of their Commander Master set, which is, I don't know, like maybe a year old. I don't know how old it is.
Recent enough
Um,
to really anger people.
well, yeah, because that was the people were buying those packs and like crazy because there were so many valuable cards, and the Jeweled Lotus, excuse me, the Jeweled Lotus really enabled people to play the game very quickly and consistently, and it became a very expensive card. And same thing with the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, with the Mana Crypt. They released like these neon sets of each the 9 colors of Mana Crypt
Hmm.
in like their collector boosters, and
Which I
it was a
hate that,
chase
by the
card for that
way.
set.
I hate
Pardon?
chase cards. Full stop. When they're like, oh, we should just make regular cards and then nicer premium cards. I'm like, or you could just make all the cards nice, you jerks.
Um, but so then the rules committee, there was one other card that either desperately needed a reprint. It's called the Dockside Extortionist, and it also just made a whole bunch of mana, allowed people to make really big swingy plays, exploding out of nowhere, potentially at the start of the game because it was just cheap and easy
Which is so
to
dumb,
play
by
right at
the
the start.
way. So I'm going to call out every Commander player right now. So imagine
Mm,
you will. You're adults, and you get your 4 friends come over for a game of Magic. You're playing a
mm,
format that has 40 life and can take up to 10 turns, and people get to play big, stupid creatures. You get to order a
mm,
pizza, and then it'll arrive in the middle of the game. And then,
mm.
Dude A's like, it'd be really funny if I kill one of them on the first turn. And I'm like, why, Dude A? Why do you need 5 mana on turn 2 to make 30 treasure? The game's supposed to be slow. That's the person who goes all in on the third round of poker and you stop inviting them to poker night.
Mm.
That's just people's logic confusing me more than anything. It's like, what format are you playing this commander in? And are you trying to make your friends not want to play Magic with you?
Well, see, I definitely agree. Like, there is a place for more competitive decks like that. Um, but when people
I've never
say
seen that
that,
place.
competitive,
They keep saying it
when people,
exists, but I'm like, where are you bringing your $100,000 commander deck?
well, so from my understanding, um, again, like I don't know, um, I guess I don't know that many commander players, but people who are really dedicated to building the most powerful decks and combos and stuff that they can, they'll find like Discord servers. They'll do webcam commander. Um, So when people really want to play with that kind of power level, you find your group to play with. But when you come to a casual table, like, you kind of got to know your group. And the guy that's coming with the extremely powerful Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, Dockside Extortionist, when they're coming to the table with those cards, and it's like, does everybody else have the same level of power? Because otherwise, that's just rude. But that's not really here or there. I'm not telling people how to have fun, because some people do have fun playing those kinds of games.
I love telling people how to have fun because it'll tie into a later part of this explanation. But yes, to TLDR it, they banned very powerful cards within a year of printing these cards specifically for this format. So they literally, to make a non-magic explanation of why I am enraged by Jewel Lotus, it literally only functions in Commander. It has the word Commander in the name of the card. Like, you cannot use it in any other way. Which, it's a home for this card, and they specifically made it to sell stuff and then got rid of it before you could use it. That's why people are furious, is why would you think the Commander card printed for Commander in the Commander set would not be allowed to be using Commander? It would be like buying Apple headphones and them having an Apple phone jack, and then there being no form code on your bottom of your phone. That would just be insane.
But see, then the other reason that people are really upset too is they sent out this mystery box. I don't know if it was like the mystery boosters, maybe from the tournament, where they had Mystery Booster 2, which was apparently one of the most well received sets ever, if you actually got a chance to go to the tournament.
Which you didn't.
But anyways, so they're shipping these tournament mystery booster boxes. And wouldn't you know it, they come with Commander Masters boosters and Lost Caverns of Ixalan boosters. And then, like, they ship out these premium March of the Machine Commander decks. That's a resale package, has like 2 resale promos. And wouldn't you know it, that one also, it didn't come with Lost Caverns of Ixalan, but it also came with Commander Masters. Mm-hmm. So they have stuff on sale right now that specifically shipped with Commander Masters.
That you cannot, in fact, use in Commander Masters.
Well, I mean, they only banned 1 card out of the set, so I understand a lot of people lost financial value, but I think the packs are still filled with cool cards and they're worth purchasing.
So my problem is the ethics, not the cards. So I don't actually care about the health of Commander that much. What I do care about is creating a premium product, creating artificial scarcity for that product, putting that product on the cover of something, and then saying you can't use this product that you just bought off us. That's where I draw the line. They made something they made DLC for a game that doesn't work with the game. Mm-hmm. They literally made a Smash Bros. Downloadable character that would only work on the DS version and not the Switch version. Like, that's just bad business practices. But Magic for the last, 3 years has just been vomiting out IP, vomiting out alternate, special, super, hyper, mega editions that all just curve in a gentle breeze, by the way. So they're not actually good cardboard. And the thing is, I'm reading this article they posted about why they banned these cards. And the thing is, the players who play this game are the ones upset about this. Because it's not like Commander has tournaments with prize pools and is played competitively, right? So they could just listen.
Well, I mean, now it would be catastrophic for them to walk back their bans. I think that'd be worse than sticking to their guns. But they basically, they banned Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, Dockside Extortionist, and then one other card that they openly admitted to be a design mistake called Nadu Winged Wisdom.
Yeah, apparently that just didn't function correctly.
Just straight up, they're like, yeah, that was a design mistake. It broke the modern format, and it's breaking Commander. So we're just going to get rid of it.
So here's my thoughts on banning cards. I am fine banning cards that do not function as intended. So,
like the anti-cards.
Like one card
they function as intended, but...
Well, not really.
Anyway.
Like, for example, when I was playing Standard a while back, there was a combo that involved playing zero cost artifact, and then a two
Oh,
cost counter spell called Tibble's Trickery, which then you're countering it, but the side effect of this counter is you look at your top cards and cheat a card into play. The card
ah.
was written to be used on your opponent, and then people are like, ooh, I found this fun exploit. Those matches on online matches and tournaments were just unfun because your opponent was rolling dice to see if they won. And it's like, yeah, I would have
Or
banned that
there's
instantly because why would you make a card that costs 2 that gives you a free 7 drop occasionally? That's not fun for either player.
there was the one land uh, that you could make it into a creature, and then you could put a counter on it that made it so you couldn't lose the game, and then it stopped being a creature at the end of the turn, so no one can interact with it because it's a land.
Oh, I did that
They
for a
ended
while.
up banning that combo too.
Yeah, because you should.
Yeah, but it got banned because it's just not a fun way to play the game. It's just annoying.
Right? So that's my thoughts: is banning things that waste both players' time or banning things that feel like a game exploit. It'd be like in
Mm.
Smash Bros. If you had a thing where if you threw a bomb, caught it, and dashed at the right time, it would like glitch you back onto the stage. That's the kind of thing I'm fine with banning. Like speedrunner
Mm.
tactics do not feel like they belong in competitive play for games.
Right.
So onto the thing I'm indifferent slash upset. Wizard of the Coast will walk back D&D things because it seems to be one of their weak spots. So
Okay, actually, there's just one
oh
more
yeah,
thing about the ban, which I found interesting. Um, I I do not condone people threatening anyone for any reason online.
unless it's
Uh,
us, we would find it kind of funny.
it was kind of funny, but apparently there was such violent outcry from probably a very vocal minority of the fan base that the rules committee stepped down. They resigned, uh, and Wizards of the Coast took over the rules committee directly. Um, and so now, whatever the rules committee says, they are directly under Wizards of the Coast. And if Wizards of the Coast says we can't ban that card because we want to make money, there's no guardrail because now Wizards of the Coast owns the rules committee
Yeah,
as
that's a
opposed to being a
terrible
separate
outcome
entity.
of this. Worst possible outcome. Such a bad outcome, I'm worried they'd intentionally staged this. Like, this feels
It could
like
be.
a conspiracy level worst possible outcome for the players.
Well, okay, so they said that they were talking about dockside extortionists in particular for the past year.
Yeah.
But Wizards of the Coast plans their products at least a year in advance. So maybe they were planning on banning Jeweled Lotus and Mana Crypt a year ago, and Wizards of the Coast said no because they were putting them in these products that are
Or
scheduled to come out in the
worse,
next year.
Wizard of the Coast said yes and put them in these products.
I
That's
mean,
the
that
thing
could
that
be it
has
too.
people upset is, yeah, if they knew this was happening and then sold them anyway, they're evil.
Well, we already know they're evil. I mean, that's just the one last thing that I wanted to say was just about the rules committee just basically being absorbed by the parent company, uh, which is most likely not going to be good for the game.
I can't imagine it will be. So Wizards of the Coast is like, they're a weird one because nerds are their audience who pay attention to the terms and conditions and hold them
Mm-hmm.
accountable. But they're run by Hasbro who don't care if there's lead in their Transformers action figures. Allegedly. Don't sue
Right.
me, Wizards of the Coast. Don't sue me, Hasbro. I'm sure you could say with confidence you've never had lead in any of your toys that you've been making since the 50s. I'm sure it's fine.
I'm sure.
Complete faith. So they're announcing their new player's handbook, new monster manual, new this and that. But they're announcing it
Mm.
like it's backwards compatible. And then it's like, oh yeah, it's backwards compatible with spells. If you manually homebrew them in because it's going to use the new stuff. And then the fans are like, no, we will destroy you. But what's
Huh.
weird to me is how little I care about the new player's handbook.
Okay, so the player's handbook that was most recently published is the newest edition
So,
of
5th edition
5e?
came out about a decade ago.
Right.
And now they're putting out 1 D&D, they're calling it, because they don't want to call it 6th edition. And that player's handbook, or the 2024 player's handbook as they've been calling it, comes out like last week?
Yeah, because like I went to Dragon's Den to pick up to pick up Commander decks.
Perfect.
Um, I love casual formats, and especially Arc Enemy.
Mhm.
The newest set of Commander decks had all four of them have Arc Enemy schemes, and I was like, I really want those schemes, so I had to buy all four of them. And luckily, my local game store had a 20% sale on for their own
Hashtag
30th
support local
anniversary.
game
So,
stores.
so I got these uh, Commander decks at a discount, which is good. But I saw a new player's handbook, and I kind of like thumbed through it, and I saw it had more class options. But I'm not sure if that's the D&D 1 or if that's still D&D 5e.
So it just says D&D Player's Handbook on it, which is like probably the new one. And that's kind of my problem with it. So I played a lot of different RPGs, not just D&D, and my group sticks with 5th edition. So if you look at D&D Beyond, at like the old rogue versus the new rogue rogue's like, yeah, you can reduce your number of sneak attack dice to do extra damage, and you can gain weapon masteries to do extra effects. But it's like such a little update. Where it's like every class, now they all get their subclass at level 3, for example.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, if you guys had went one step further and made it that every subclass was functional with every class, that'd be awesome. Or like Monk have switched from key points to focus points. And you can spend focus points when you use Step of the Wind to disengage and double your speed. But like, they're the kind of changes you would only notice if you play a lot of D&D. And they're all like balance patch kind of changes. Like Baldur's Gate made bigger changes to like how gameplay functions than this did. Like I think they actually added in the Baldur's Gate you can use a potion as a bonus action. And they like took out the exploit that you could use an infinite number of smites on a turn. Where you can only do one smite a turn now, not one smite an attack. But they're like, but we gave the paladin a bunch of other power-ups. But like, it's just weird that I don't care. Like, I have a paycheck and a job now. I could just buy this new player's handbook. But because it's only a half update where it's like, oh, so all my players would then have to use a new handbook, and even with like book sharing, I don't think they'd even be bothered to remake their character.
Right.
Like, I don't think they'd update their wizard to the new wizard, even though it would only take pushing one button, and they would just get more powers. Because then they'd have to read more. Because all of the classes are wordier than they were before. Because they wanted to make it backwards compatible with all the adventures and da-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. So it's weird to me to be like, the new edition just isn't quite new enough.
Well, yeah, it doesn't even sound like it's like a 5.5. It's like you say, it's balance patches.
And it's like I said, it's weird because I bought a lot of D&D books, and I'm like, all the games that are blatant D&D 5e clones that are like built on the same framework, none of them have grabbed me in. Like Tales of the Valiant did not grab me, even though it was very similar. Because as I've mentioned before, switching my players onto a new anything is like pulling teeth. They'll only try a new game if it's in a different genre. If I want them to try a new genre of RPG, it has to be like, oh, we're doing Space Marines, so D&D won't work at all. Or if it's like, oh, let's play D&D with different dice mechanics, I'll be like, no. Or if I'm like, let's play TTRPG Z, the anime punchy one, it's easier to sell them on different mechanics. But then they'd like want to try it once and then go back to our D&D campaign.
Right.
And it's like they have a new player's handbook, a new Dungeons Master guide coming out at some point, and then a new monster manual. It's funny because like I've run so much D&D, but I'm like so disappointed with this product because it doesn't like. So, as you mentioned, it'd be bad if they walk back their bans for Magic, right? I kind of wanted bans for D&D. I kind of want this new edition to just be like, no, you can't do this dumb bullshit anymore. Because people are out here being like, oh, this is my rogue paladin multi-class, so I can use Oath of Vengeance to get automatic sneak attack, to then smite my sneak attack to auto crit to ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. So it's like, this isn't a game where a casual balance patch isn't going to stop people from immediately trying to break it. But it's also not a
Right.
competitive game, so it doesn't really matter. So,
Mm.
like, I would almost prefer if, like, it came out with less subclass and simpler classes, or, like,
Mm.
came out sufficiently different. Because, like, trying to be like, hey, Karl, if I run a new campaign, you should get the new player's handbook so you could be the new barbarian with the Path of the World tree. I feel like you'd rather just buy the book that had the Path of the World tree in it than get a full player's handbook.
Yeah.
But that's my mini rant, is that pure capitalism is, by not calling it an edition and not rendering anything outdated, this just tells me that this will be out, and then in 4 years they'll put out the 2028 Player's Handbook, and then digitally update the content on Beyond, archive the old content, and just they're trying to turn D&D into a live service game, and I'm not a fan. Because it's so pointless. Like, their big thing is backgrounds now come with an origin feat. And I'm like, okay, I could just give people a feat at level 1. Are the feats new? They're slightly different. We made them slightly worse than regular feats. Okay. Or it's like, we took half-elf out because of the implications. I'm like, oh, so did you put a cool crossing races to make unique races cut mechanic? No, we just took half-elf out. I'm like, oh, thanks. Well, if you want to be a half-elf, you just say your elf is less elf. And I'm like, that's so lame. So, Daggerheart, Critical Role's new game, actually, like, solved this so beautifully. So, you have a card that's your character's race, right? Which has 2 bullet points on it. So, like, for example, a dwarf would have, like, bullet point 1, resistant to poison or whatever. Bullet point 2, carry more. And to make a mixed one, you just take the first bullet point of any one card and the second bullet point of any other card.
Huh.
Right? So you can be your half dwarf, half fairy nonsense character you want to be, and it functions, and that makes me happy. Plus, like, they're all about the community gaming license, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But that's my mini rant, is that, like, you're trying to get me to buy a player's handbook, when I'd rather have bought something interesting. And it's like they tried their other approach of, like, gamifying Magic the Gathering sets, and be like, buy the buy the Ravnica book or buy the Strixhaven book. But then they didn't like putting content to do with it. It was the weirdest strategy, because they're like, here's a Ravnica book, but we didn't put a Ravnica campaign with it. And I'm like, you could have went Ravnica Player's Handbook, Ravnica Dungeon Master's Guide, and Ravnica Adventure, and then it would feel different enough to justify getting the set of them. But when you can mix and match everything, your flavor kind of breaks down a bit. Like, they have their Eberron guide for, like, how to make your cool steampunk stuff. But even that doesn't have a lot you can really do with it. Like, I found when I ran a Ravnica campaign, I ended up just fusing it at random with Water's Deep Dragon Heist to make it make more sensible sense.
I mean, I really enjoyed that campaign. It's just when your players don't know what they want.
And it was really hard for me to get player buy-in, which is part of, like, I don't want to blame that I used Ravnica as a setting, but I think part of my problem is I used Ravnica as a setting.
Yeah?
So I tried to explain it, right? Like, oh, you're in a guild, and each of these guilds gets a thing, and they're connected, and only you and the Is It player really actually, like, leveraged the setting. And everyone else is like, yeah, no, we're gonna build an inn and live our best domestic lives. And I'm like, all right, I'm a DM, what people want, man. Also, it's weird that they released the player's handbook and then they're releasing the Dungeon Master's Guide separately. And I would definitely care more about that to kind of see what they've done with it. But it looks like they put in, like, bases that level up. And adjusted magical items. And they're like, and we fixed crafting. I'm like, I doubt you fixed crafting. Your crafting was so broken in 5e that there's no way you put in the effort to make it a good system. Because what they'd have to do... And why has no tabletop RPG done this, Karl? Why do monster stat blocks not have a drops table? Can you answer me why no one at Wizards of the Coast has played Monster Hunter and thought to themselves, every player ever is going to harvest this Rathalos, so we should just list what the Rathalos drops and what you can build from it on the Rathalos' sheet. Like, if each monster said, like, a list of items you could craft from that monster on the monster sheet, perfect D&D, right? Like, you kill a zombie, it's like things you can craft with the zombie, and it's like bone basket. Like, especially if you give a table, like, you can either get this many rations or get these claws, this fang, and it says right on it what you can make with those parts. Be awesome. And only take 4 lines of text per monster.
Well, I mean, it depends how complicated your crafting system is.
Well, that's the point, is you don't want it to be complicated. It's D&D. People are going to say what they want to do, and then that's the thing I think Wizards doesn't quite understand about their own game. How the actual gameplay works is player says what they want to do. DM says how the player can do it. DM rolls dice. A player rolls dice. DM describes thing. Your players aren't going to say, I would like to use 2 months of downtime to spend 2 gold pieces a day to craft an uncommon magic item that's a fire sword, because that means they're already metagaming too hard for my taste. What they're going to say is, can I make this dragon into something cool? It's like they don't want to craft. They just want to say that they crafted. Most players aren't that creative. So if you like, for our party, for example, which are relatively artsy people, if there's a dead dragon, and you've seen what they do, their first thought is, I want dragon scales for some kind of armor.
Right.
Maybe a dragon claw or a dragon fang for some kind of weapon. And X number of rations from it. So I don't need to give them rules on how they would build a hang glider. What I need to is what the weapon does they're going to make out of it, what the armor does they're going to make out of it, and how much food they get. And then letting them only pick one of those 3 options. And if then the Karl in the group's like, actually, I want to make a dragon hang glider. Like any good DM, I would then look up the list of magic items for a hang glider. See if they're see how much the item the dragon would normally give me is worth, and be like, yeah, you could probably make a hang glider, sure.
The hang glider.
Because you'd absolutely make a hang glider.
Yeah, right. Check. Yes, I would.
You'd made a stone boat. I still want to know if that's actually possible. It made sense in my brain.
Well, it made sense in my brain too, although I really didn't think about the action. You just have to make sure that it displaces more water than it weighs.
Right? Like,
probably have to be very thin, but
this is like a Mythbusters problem, not an us problem. But to recap our episode, because I feel like doing that at the end now, we've talked about the movie Jaws and how the practical effects are better than Sharknado. Karl did not get left at the altar yet, but has set himself up for that story later, possibly.
Okay.
He managed to sneakily get measurements and then just give up and bring her to the shop. Then, because all things in Karl's mind are of equal importance, we then talked about the commander band list. How some players will build things that are unnecessary, but really it's the logistics of selling a product willingly that you will not be able to use, and having a rules committee written internally. And then Richard bitched about the new player's handbook just not going far enough to really excite him about it. Do you have any closing thoughts on these topics before we pivot to the random question of the day?
No, I think that pretty much covers everything.
All right, our random question. And even if we've used this one already, we'll probably have a different answer. But this feels like a pretty original one. Name one movie you think needed a sequel.
A movie I think needed a sequel.
Right? It's a good one, right? Because sequels are usually like a shot in the face. Like, I'm trying to think of a movie that like left things unanswered enough I'd want more.
Right. Well, because I mean, like the.
So my answer is ironic, given the speech I just gave. I really liked the D&D movie.
Ooh.
And I want a sequel. I don't even know if I want the same characters. I just want a sequel. Like, if they just gave it a different cast every time, and just like kept Jonathan, I'd be good.
Yeah.
Like, that movie did not do as well as it should have for it being the most entertaining fantasy movie I've seen in the last 20 years.
I mean, it was genuinely entertaining. It just didn't do much to differentiate itself from anything that Marvel was doing.
Well, it did one big thing. It was actually a fantasy movie that didn't take itself seriously, because everything went Game of Thrones. And I'm like, oh, a fantasy thing where someone acknowledges that you cast a spell to ask 5 questions. I'm like, yeah, no, this is great.
Okay, so yeah, D&D movie. That's a good choice.
Definitely not The Princess Bride. That could not be sequeled well.
Well, I mean, there is a sequel book about her baby, about Princess Buttercup's baby. I had the physical book, and it included the first chapter of the sequel book. I never read it though.
That doesn't bode well if you haven't read it and you have it.
No, I don't have. I have the Princess Bride, and it included a bonus chapter that was the first chapter of the next book, but I never bothered to actually find the next book because there's no sequel for the movie.
Maybe a Shining sequel where they actually make The Shining a plot point. No. Especially like with, you know what was weird? The Top Gun sequel was actually good.
The Top Gun sequel was better than the original.
Yeah, that's wild. You cannot understand how low my expectations were for that movie, and for me to be like, that was pretty good, is like huge prey. You know what was a really dumb movie I enjoyed recently? They actually did a crossover movie between King and Ashura and Grappler Baki. I would love a sequel to that because it was just a stupid idea and I liked it. You took your unrelated punchy animes and gave them a crossover. That made sense.
See, like, I'm having trouble thinking of movies that deserved a sequel that weren't like Alita Battle Angel deserves a sequel.
Okay.
But like a sequel's on the way, so that's not going to be very relevant when the sequel actually comes out.
Oh, that's funny when you're like, although to be fair, we can manifest things, so now you could just take credit for it.
I've been watching news about Alita Battle Angel. There hasn't been anything concrete because James Cameron is busy with his quintilogy of Avatar movies.
That does not. That's definitely things that don't need more sequel. They're good.
Yeah, but the sequel to Alita Battle Angel, that's what I really want to see. I really hope I see that within my lifetime because I absolutely loved the first movie, and I absolutely loved the manga that it's based on. It was so good. The movie was just such a great adaptation of 3 distinct plot arcs, and it just kind of made them happen concurrently, and just
they did it well, which is truly impressive.
I really did enjoy Alita Battle Angel, and then read the manga, and I was like, yeah, that movie was a really good adaptation.
As I'm just laughing at how Ghost in the Shell just looked worse live action in every way than an animated movie from the 70s. By like a lot. I also want the second Gundam Hathaway movie to ever come out, but like...
Ooh, yeah, Gundam Hathaway. That movie didn't really need to be Gundam, but it was interesting.
But that's probably what made it good, is it didn't need to be Gundam. Like, I've watched enough Gundam. Like, I'm not about to come out here and be like, we need more Char's counterattack. Yeah, what we need is a 9th Unicorn movie. Oh, they actually had one. Nah. Hathaway specifically, because they did something different I'd like to see sequeled. Oh man, so many anime movies are just so notoriously bad. One last hot take I'm curious of yours before I wrap up the episode. What do you think's worse? Anime movies that are just a completely pointless filler arc? Like Tree of Might? Or anime movies that are just a plot arc of the show that they took out of the anime and made a show like Demon Slayer or the Gundam Seed... Well, yeah, I guess the Gundam Seed movies. What's worse? A movie where you just straight up take a plot arc out of the anime... out as a manga? Or a movie that's a filler arc?
Well, I mean... So, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the movies are a superior way to enjoy the first like 2 seasons.
Oh man, that's a bold claim. I'm not
Well, it's just
disagreeing, but it's a bold statement.
well, and I feel the same about the Dragon Ball Super movies, where the movies were just a superior way to enjoy those first 2 seasons.
So I was searching on YouTube and I actually found that someone had edited the next few Dragon Ball Super plot arcs into movie form.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, that's correct. Absolutely, the Champa tournament could have been a movie. The Goku Black arc could have been a movie. The pre-tournament of power, less so, but like a two-parter movie. Like you go pre-tournament of power, then tournament of power.
But so when done well, I believe that the season turned into a movie is just generally the examples I just gave are like the best case scenarios. But most of these the filler arcs, they don't
They feel like they need
100%
something
mesh.
they feel like they need to be a little more buffered to be canon. Like for Dragon Ball examples, the history of Trunks and the Bardock ones were good because they could have been canon.
Right.
So you're like, oh, this is a fun side story. Like if Naruto had made like a Kakashi movie, that probably would have been pretty good.
But then Naruto made like a stupid Rainbow Chakra movie, and it's like
It's the perfect
the
example of
Rainbow Chakra.
everything wrong with doing that.
Exactly. And I think I've seen more egregious examples of bad filler movies than I have of bad season turned into a movie.
I agree, but it's kind of ironic to say though, because at least like when you write a filler movie, there's writing involved. Like
Mm.
to like go throw Inuyasha under the bus for a second. Inuyasha had 4 movies.
Hmm.
2 of them were pretty good.
Okay.
Like nothing in them really mattered, but it's like this is the story of how our dad died and his third sword that makes zombies, and we got new team
Mm.
attacks. I'm like, okay, I can vibe on this because at least someone had to write this.
Hmm.
But yeah, the best way to watch Gundam Seed and Seed Destiny is the DVD releases in movie form.
Hmm.
Not the new version they put on Netflix. Oh, I don't have time to get into this or episodes at the count, but I'm going to let you in on something. Netflix recently added Seed, Seed Destiny, and Seed Freedom. However, I like these series dubbed. They did a new dub for them and changed names. And
What?
so they call Lacus Lacus.
Okay.
And not only, so they call Lacus Lacus in the movie, and me and my brother are like, why would you? And then it matched in Seed and Seed Destiny. They went back and dubbed it to match their bad pronunciations in the movie. And they just like changed random iconic lines. I'm like, the problem that I've watched enough Gundam Seed to know that you change this random throwaway line. But it's like, there's like when Kira throws a punch at Side, Kira's like, don't even try and pick a fight with me. You have no chance. And the new dub's like, Sai, you shouldn't try and attack me. It's not fair. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. You took the bite out of this. I should not be that familiar with the show, but I caught you. Or they.
Oh,
So at the very start of Seed, he yells, take Kigali, she's a girl, right? To like put in like the escape capsule. And then this one, they're like, take her, she's just a kid. And they like pulled the sexism out of taking women and children first. Which was an interesting choice because I feel like take the girl is what you do in an emergency shelter, but apparently we've hit that point of woke where men and women should die equally in emergencies.
okay,
Good job,
just
society.
as one more random aside.
Good.
One more random aside.
We're doing a double feature because we
Um,
haven't done an episode in a while.
So the Secret Invasion or whatever the Marvel show with about Nick Fury.
Oh!
Okay. So
Was that the correct
apparently-
reaction?
So in the Infinity War in the movie, when the snap happens, Samuel L. Jackson is like mother, and then he gets snapped, right?
Like you do.
Right. But they were so dedicated to character assassination in the Secret Wars show, they redubbed that line.
The Secret Wars show is the worst thing I've ever seen. And the reason it's the worst thing I've ever seen, and that's a bold claim, is they had all of the money on Earth to make this, and all of the good IP on Earth. They had Skrulls, shape-shifting, superheroes, Robert Downey Jr. if they wanted him, right? Like, this was Disney's full budget if they wanted it. And they had the shape-shifting aliens not shapeshift. They had the power-stealing aliens not steal powers. One of the stolen powers was magic rings that it used. And they didn't have Samuel L. Jackson cause any noticeable effect in his story. The Raiders of the Lost Ark, Tim, where if he wasn't in the movie, it would have went the exact same way in the series.
Well, we were talking about dubs, and it just made me laugh at the fact that, like I say, the whole series is just insane character assassination of Nick Fury. And it's just funny that they went so far as to redub the line when he gets snapped away. And instead of being, motherfucker, he's like, oh no. And then he just like fades away. And
Like, it's so bad. They took the bite out of it. But yeah, so they added all of Seed, which I've been going through again because I enjoyed it. Not saying it's good, not putting that on the record on the internet, but I am enjoying it.
Okay.
But like, the dub's just kind of worse. But that might just be nostalgia, right? It might just be, I know it's different and it bugs me.
Right.
But like, also I could just push a button and switch it to subtitled and not have this problem, but, you know.
Yeah, but sometimes the translation in the subtitles doesn't transfer over to what you know from the dub either.
Yeah, I'm just too aware of this particular franchise. It's a problem. And
anyways, yeah, we should probably tell people to self-care, hydrate, exercise.
Right? Like, I almost want to like give them like an arbitrary instruction just to see if they do it. Like, go download some pictures of capybaras in hot springs. Because, I mean, that makes me happy. Like, I've started sending my friend capybara pictures because they're just awesome.
Capybaras are the ones that just go and chill next to crocodiles, right?
Yeah. They're the world's largest rodent with no natural predators. Also, they'll knock oranges into hot springs because it's good for their skin. To take orange baths.
Just randomly, one of my coworkers has said recently that he's obsessed with capybaras, that he keeps trying to find capybara show videos.
That's a good habit. That's a good choice, yeah. That's also what I would do after I was robbed on sawn-off shotgun point. Is just dive into capybaras for comfort. Bringing it back. You know,
I bet. I'm pretty sure he was on delivery, and the whole incident was done before he came back from his delivery.
Oh man. Well, it's like I was watching like a retrospective of Dragon Ball Z Abridged recently, and they're talking about how like they tried to write emotional through lines through their shows, but in their movies they didn't have to care as much. And I'm just like, man, me and you working emotional through lines through our podcast. Like the idea of there being character arcs going on in the background of the story. Like, yeah, they literally, if someone has listened to every one of our episodes, all 86, they got Karl's first date, Karl's new girlfriend, Karl's traditions with that, movie nights happening, and engagement in the background of this podcast. Karl had a whole ass plot arc. He like moved places, toured a lot of Canada. Like there's like a whole thing. And then Richard's like went to school, and that's just been my through line this entire time. I'm basically our Vegeta.
Yeah.
Actually, no, in this situation, you would definitely be Vegeta. Like you like had a whole ass adventure between seasons, and now just have a wife and kids. And that's where I'm going to end it.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I really didn't mind using extra runtime since the episode, we have our full like 3 hours content.